Good morning. I'm Don Burgess for Bird News and Views. And this morning we have Sergeant Detective Jason Smith, the Bermuda Police Service, and he's going to be talking to us about the Chavelle Dillon Burgess case. We're approaching 6 months on it. Welcome, Detective Sergeant.
Good morning.
I know some of these facts have been out there before, but it's good to go over them again to help remind the public. We'll start with when did Chavelle go missing, and when she was reported missing, and why was there a time difference between the two?
Yes, good morning. So she was reported missing to the police on the 30th of April. However, we know from the investigation so far she was last seen or heard from on about the 11th of April. The difference in the time period as to why she was not reported missing shortly after the 11th is still a matter and subject of the investigation, but we are making some inquiries and headway into getting those answers.
How did that put the investigation at a disadvantage right at the get-go? Because it's like a 19-day difference.
Well, obviously, anytime there's been that kind of a delay, that means that we are way behind on the ball there in the investigation. And so, that was the case on this case. But shortly after she was reported missing, we started to put things in place quite quickly to try to gain some ground that had been lost.
Okay. Bermuda was under shelter in place at the time of her disappearance. How did that affect the investigation?
Well, I think that as the investigation progresses, and depending on what stage of the investigation we reach, I think that will be a key factor in the investigation. The fact that there was shelter in place, the fact that she would have had limited access to move around. Anytime that happens in that period of time, we would like to think that people would have been able to see something that would have grabbed their attention. Those who know her would have been able to recognize her and at least be able to tell us where they last saw her. And so the fact that the shelter in place and there was limited access and movement of the people, I think that only strengthens the investigation and also our claim that something untoward happened to her.
Now, what were your first steps in your attempt to try to locate her?
Yeah, so the first steps we did was we went to her residence where she was staying, and we started our search there. We interviewed family and friends of hers to try to piece together when was the last time that they saw her. And I think fairly quickly on, we were satisfied that her disappearance was not normal, was not natural, and that something was suspicious about it. And so we started to put different steps in place to try to locate her. But the first and the most important step is trying to find her. That was then, and that is today.
So what are some of the things that the police service have done to try to locate Chavelle?
So we've implemented various search strategies. We also asked for and got the support of members of the public. I think you will recall at the beginning of the investigation that there were lots of volunteers that were out combing the island, trying to find her, looking in obvious places and some places that were not as obvious. And that was something that even today, where we continue to reassess which is a search strategy. We've also sought the assistance of a UK police force, and we've also been liaising with one of their searching officers and coordinators, who's been giving us some guidance on how we search and where we search and how we go about it. Also, we did a systematic approach. It wasn't just sort of ad hoc. We looked at certain piece of evidence that we had at our disposal, and we deployed certain strategies as a result of certain information that we had. So it was then, and it is today, a continuous process in trying to systematically search the entire island until we find her.
And I know like some members of the public have raised some money, and the police put up a reward as well. When did that get put in place, and how much is it?
So the reward is $50,000. That still stands today. That reward is still active. The reward was implemented in July, June, end of June, July, to encourage folks who are aware and have information to come forward. And we would like to remind the public that that reward money is still available. You will recall that the commissioner, in a press conference, brought it to our attention that this money had been raised and that money is still available. And we do still encourage those members of our community who have information to come out and to come and to support us. Let us know what you know so that we can try to find Chavelle.
Okay. Now, we're 6 months on here. What's the Bermuda Police Service doing at this point in the investigation and trying to locate her?
As I said before, we have a search strategy that was implemented at the beginning that continues. In fact, just last week, we sat down with our team of investigators and those persons. So what we've done in this case is we have set up a specific team with a search coordinator that is trained to go and systematically search for Chavelle. You'll recall that part of the strategy was to bring in a dog that had certain skills, a Godiva dog, to go about it to search. That is still an active part of the search strategy. And so as early as just last week, we did meet, and we are pursuing some new lines of inquiry as it relates to this search strategy. And those are being deployed and coordinated as we speak.
Right. And you've searched on land and underwater as well.
Oh, yes. Yeah, we have searched on land. We've searched underwater. I think some members of the public a couple of weeks ago would have noticed that the Ward Pond area that was searched. It has been a very wide, very vast searching strategy. And I mean, I know that there's a lot of us who have put in lots of time and effort in trying to find her, not just police, but also members of the community. And as I said earlier, that is something that is continuing even today.
You mentioned you have a whole team looking for her, but I know like other elements of the police service have helped out as well. How many man hours would you approximate that's been put into trying to locate Chavelle?
What I would tell you, Don, is that the efforts to find her, it is literally a 24/7, 7 days a week effort. Every single police officer who is on patrol at any given day, at any given time, would be privy to a briefing package that is put out on a daily basis, and it is updated, which is encouraging officers whilst they're on patrol to search for her. And then there's also a specific team, as I mentioned earlier, that is putting in hours to search for her. So the effort is literally, it's a 24/7, 7 days a week. Every police officer who reports to duty, and even whilst not on duty, if they were to see, hear, or be concerned about something, then they all know, we all know that we got to press the buttons, make the phone calls to say, look, so this is what I've seen, this is what I've heard. And when that does happen, and sometimes it happens quite often, it could be daily, sometimes it's once a week that we get different tips from members of the public who are calling in with things that they've seen, and we deploy. But it is a 24 a 24 hours, 7 days a week search strategy, which is involving just about every police officer that's working within the Bermuda Police Service, as well as civilian staff.
It's probably good for the public to know that the updates on Chavelle and tips and things are daily, including the daily updates for the police.
Yes.
Is there anything else the public should know at this point?
What we would like the public to know is that your police service is working extremely hard in this investigation. In my office alone, the officers who are working on this case, which by the way, it is a dedicated team of detectives. We're looking at, there's about 3 of us that are actively looking and working on this case. We are constantly pursuing, reviewing statements and interviews and going back and just ensuring that we have not missed anything. So I would like for the public to know that the effort that the police service is putting in, it is a massive, it is something that has all of our attention, and we're giving it the attention that it deserves. But having said that, it is a community effort that's going to help to bring about the resolution that I think all of us are looking for. I think as we go throughout the community, both whilst on and off duty, we're often asked about this case. So that lets us know that within the community, there are a lot of people who are talking about this. And there are a lot of people who have information about her case and what has happened to her, even what's happened to her in the past, any past relationships, any past issues with people. Lots of people in the community are talking about that. What we want to encourage the public to do is not only if you're talking amongst yourselves, but we want you to come and actually talk to us, because it is together that we can work. If we work together, we can come and find a resolution, and hopefully we can find her. That's the ultimate goal, is that hopefully we can find her. And then second is those persons who are responsible for her death, that we bring them to justice. And that is something that we are working towards, my team, the whole police service, and I believe that the community wants to see that justice is served.
Thank you. And I guess part of the thing is like, even if may seem trivial to that person, that might be the little piece that kicks things off and helps find resolution to this and closure for our family.
Absolutely. And in my experience as a detective, it's a lot of times it's those small little bits and pieces of information that really amount to a whole lot. So that's why often when we do press conferences and we say to members of the community that if you do see something, come and say something, because what may be small or what you may think is not relevant can be very, very relevant to the investigation, and actually just puts together that missing piece of the puzzle that will solve it. So we employ, encourage members of the community that if you see something, if you know something, come and say something to us, because that can make the big difference in solving this case.
I know we've been running the number on the ticker here, but what numbers can the public call if they know anything?
So there are 2 numbers that have been put out on a regular basis for the public to contact. That's my number, that's 717-0864. And then the other number is for Detective Superintendent Pedro, and that is 717-0854.
And of course, they can always call Crime Stoppers.
And that's the anonymous number to call, 800-8477.
Right. Well, Detective Sergeant Smith, appreciate having you on this morning.
Thank you so much. And let's work together.
Right. And just as I close here, I just want to say, please, if you know something, call the police. It doesn't have, you may, again, as we just spoke about, it may not be anything in particular that you think might be relevant, but it could be, as Detective Sergeant Smith has just said, could be the little piece that connects all the pieces together. So just want to encourage you today to think about it and make that phone call if you know something. Thank you for watching.